Greetings. You know who it is. It's me. Thanks for joining me. I had something happen this week. Again, no details, doesn't matter. But I thought this might make a good video today. It's about fear. There was a situation where it had been going on for a long, long time. And I had the chance to do something about it. In a way that would be irretrievable. Do you know what I mean? I'd been sounding the alarm several times to people who could have done something about it. And they did nothing. So, in true Komodo dragon fashion, I just kept sniffing the air, waiting for the villager to drop. And that villager did indeed drop. We had an opportunity to move fast, get something done, but it was scary. It was scary. And I felt fear. I don't know who these people are that think bold people don't feel fear. Everyone feels fear. It's just that I do something different with it than I think other people do. Although I haven't heard a lot of people offer up like a step-by-step way of dealing with it. Mostly they talk about concepts like think happy thoughts or something blah blah positive. I don't care about any of that. To me, I think that's just, it's extra. To me, it just works better to get down in it the way it is and face it head on. I've always found my fear to have useful information in there. It's noisy, it's chaotic, it can get you kind of wound around the axle. It can. I know it can. But if you can stay present with it, just stay with it. And kind of let it express itself. What I do then is I give it like maybe like 5 minutes. It's like, go ahead, be afraid. Be afraid. Be very afraid, you know? Think about all of the things that we could be facing because of this situation. Go through all of it, all the scenarios. Now, I want to inform you also about the function of meditation. People say, I'm getting more and more frustrated with people talking about concepts, but not like in a very superficial way. It's not very useful to just say, don't feel fear. Like that's, I'm like, how does one do that? You know? I like systems. I like standard operating procedures. I like repeatable processes. I've found quite a few for myself, and they do work. Let's get back to the fear thing, because I'm trying to work on these side rails that I go off on. I don't script anything, so sometimes I wander. Anyway, try to fill in blanks as I go, so I'm clear. I felt the fear. I gave it like 5 minutes. I'm like, do it. Do your thing. Just really go all out, right? It's super uncomfortable, like physically, very uncomfortable. Almost terrifying, right? Your body goes through all these changes. all these hormones get dumped. 5 minutes after it starts, usually it stops way before then. But I'm like, hey, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to make your case, okay? I don't deny it. I don't suppress it. I just say, hey, here's your day in court. Here's your 5 minutes in court. And after it exhausts itself, my next step is this. You know how people say fear is false experience appearing real? I don't use it at all because I feel like that's not really... I feel like fear does have some data in there that we can use. It's just hard to see what that data is while a moment of fear is happening. Especially if it doesn't involve airway blockage or physical assault or something like that. I prefer the acronym FEAR, find every available resource. So I do my fear. I let the fear just kind of, just exhaust itself, which it does. And in fact, the more I try to fight it or the more I try to argue with it, the longer it goes on. I've learned that over the years. I just let it exhaust itself. Okay, now we're at the point where it's exhausted itself. Now I'm going to say, okay, well, was there any useful information in there? And then I start gathering information. Let's use this as an example. I'm afraid I'm about to lose my job. Okay, let's use this. I'm afraid I'm about to lose my job because that would mean my husband and I would end up homeless. And then if we're homeless, we won't be able to find a place to plug in our CPAP machines at night. And then one or both of us are going to die, and we won't have a place for Marley, our little man. And we'll have to take him to the shelter, and because he's a pit, he may be put down, and then a lot of the rescue groups won't take him. I'm explaining to you this whole thing, okay, so you understand. Because I'm not here to glaze over shit. Let's just get right into it. What are they going to do with our stuff? I'm not going to have anywhere to put our stuff. Our living arrangement's going to change completely. Now, do you see how, I lost my job and then now we're homeless? Do you see that? Just let it play itself out. It's very uncomfortable for me to listen to myself do this. See? But I let it go anyway. Because if I can observe it, that means my entire self hasn't been yanked into it. Hasn't been hooked by it. Alright, so let's take the situation. I'm going to lose my job. Okay, if that's the case, then I guess I better start looking for another one, right? So now I'm compiling. I'm in my find every available resource phase of this whole mental journey we're going on. I'm going to put together a whole list of people that can help me find another job. Okay? Then I'm going to look for a bunch of websites where I can post my resume to find a job. Okay? So we've averted the job part. But let's also talk about the homelessness part. I make a list of all the people that could help prevent us from becoming homeless. We might have places to stay. Right? Friends might be able to help us out. We might be able to rent some rooms out or something, right? See, now Now we're switching gears, you see. Terror. Now we're like, all right, well, let's just get more information about it. We're not invalidating it. This is the important part. I'm not telling my fear that it's ridiculous. I'm not telling myself that I'm being ridiculous for being afraid. That fear is trying to tell me something. It's telling me that I don't have the information I need. That's what it's telling me. It's telling me we're missing information. So then my next step is to go find it. And guess what? We talked about the war chief and the funny pictures in the Regard Me video. Now I'm telling you, here's another part. We're kicking in the investigative part. That investigative part and fear cannot coexist in the same space. We're changing our mindset by taking the fears seriously. And now we're going to address it. Now I'm going to find a bunch of information. And then, 15 minutes later, I'm like, hey, I have a plan. I've allowed myself to think of the worst case scenario, which a lot of people would say is negative. But I would say to those people, I've done this for as long as I can remember. And I'm the least fearful person I know. So there must be something to it, right? It's at least worth a try, and it doesn't ruin anything. There is a way that you can, sit down, meditate, watch yourself, right? Go through all of these emotional states without ever having moved a muscle. One of the benefits of meditation is realizing that a lot of these mental states go by in the sky, like in clouds in the sky. They just kind of, you move through them. You move through them. But if you try to interrupt or stop the clouds from being in the sky at all, now you've got a whole different problem. Because now those clouds are just going to back up. And now you're going to have cloud traffic. You're going to have a major traffic jam of clouds. And they will come out. They will come out. I like to do the feel your feelings. It's never failed me. Might be worth a try for you. The other thing I like to do with the fear is, obviously turn it into something funny. Like when I thought about us being homeless and then we didn't have a place to plug in our CPAP machines, I thought about us sneaking around like ninjas in neighborhoods at night, just stringing together 200-foot long power cords so that we could plug in our CPAP machines in the tent that we were sleeping in the alley. I mean, then I was like, oh my God, we could wear costumes, right? We could wear masks. Hilarious. I thought about how Mr. Foolish and I would be goofing around, and how clumsy the both of us are. We'd be caught in no time. We would have burned every neighborhood within like 6 months. Turning it into a big fat joke, right? Unhooking. So there are some choices there. Let's see what Morgan has to say. Let's see what Morgan says about fear, about using humor to unhook yourself, about planning for the worst case scenario by gathering information. Well, what would we do in that circumstance? Another good one is try to calculate the statistical possibilities. Let me see. Yes. We just need one more. If you do like math stuff on it, Fear also does not live in the math part of the brain. Unless you are some amazing outlier of a human being. Perhaps a forensic accountant. So we're just talking about, the different programs that run. We're not computers, I know. But it's how I think of it. And it helps me figure it out. Let's see what Morgan has to say about just the nature of fear and then working through it. I've never been sorry to work through a feeling or an emotion. I don't necessarily need to know the origin of it. But the way I treat it is as if, you know how children are they can be very fear-based because their worlds are so small, okay? And they're dependent on other people for care and feeding, right? And I feel like that's how I treat myself during these times. I like to think of it as like, I've got a bunch of children in here, and the way that I'm going to get myself out of these jams is if I bring in the camp counselor. Camp foolish, right? Camp foolish. We got a camp counselor helping all the kids work through their problems, right? I mean, you could do worse. You could do a lot worse. That mindset has always worked for me. All right? So just maybe instead, do you tell a kid to shut up? Like, don't be afraid. Would you tell a child that? I mean, I wouldn't. I would never do that. I would rather show them how to work through it. But then, I don't judge people that don't. Because, I mean, a lot of people don't know. Like, they don't teach this stuff, okay? A lot of this stuff you learn by accident or because you watch some, like, old fat chick on YouTube with her ridiculous supposed tarot reading, right? All right. 4 of Wands reversed. Shaky foundation, instability, on shaky ground, right? Like fear. Fear is very shaky. And not in a good way. Something amiss at a party, underlying tension. Sister, you ain't lying. Ace of Wands, Ace of Rods. New excitement or enthusiasm, passion ignited, go for it. Bursting with energy, motivation, inspiration, creative spark of energy. Starting a new project or endeavor. Take action, do it, move. An opportunity for growth. We were afraid. We were petrified. I'm sorry. Then we let that exhaust itself. Just let it run itself out like a dog. Running around the dog barn, making itself tired. Have at it. I can handle it. Go ahead. Just tell me what you got to say, right? Then, after it's tired, you start picking out the pieces of information that are important. This fear was about losing our job. Why were we afraid of that? Because it would be losing our home. Okay? How can we prevent all of these situations from happening? Let's, look square in the face of the worst case scenario and just plan how we would mitigate that. 5 of Wands reversed. Reversed. Inner conflict, tolerating others you disagree with, agree to disagree. Like my approach, for example, me disagreeing with just think happy thoughts. Which I think in an emergency, that actually might be a strategy. I'm not saying discount the strategy fully. I'm saying maybe just add another one to it and see if it works for you. Latent hostility, spiritual hostility. That's what I'm here to do. 7 of Cups reversed. This, I mean, I feel like I'm kind of getting called out. Here we go. Unfocused, distracted, unrealistic, wishful thinking, fooling yourself. What? To me, that would have like some kind of dirty context, I believe. Impractical or unrealized plans and inability to choose. Too many options. Procrastination. I don't know what that means in this context. Unfocused or distracted. I mean, yeah, in other news, water's wet. And then the last card is the Lovers. Attraction and compatibility. Finding a match or a counterpart. United partnership. Choice. Freedom to choose. Responsibility or consequence of choice. Going from immaturity or dependence to maturity or independence. And you know, also, the more strategies you have, the less you need to, the less you need other people to help you. Listen, I'm not saying it's bad to ask others for help. I'm just saying, when people ask me for advice, I always ask them, well, what have you tried? And a lot of times, nothing. Nothing. And then I'm like, well, you don't really want advice, you want attention. Right? And honestly, I don't want to sit here and listen to you tell me about your problems for 25 minutes when I know damn well you're not prepared to do anything about it. So maybe let's tag up another time. You know, I'm polite-ish, not rude, but I'm kind of like, hey man, nah, bro. No, sorry you're upset, but you know we keep talking about the same stuff, and you never address it. So I'm no longer available for this. Like, I've shared my strategies. I've tried to almost coach you into proper form, like I would if we were lifting weights. You just refuse. You just want attention. I'm not here for that because I could be making videos for, you know, people that this might actually help. I'm not here to talk for an hour about your bullshit problems that are only a problem because your ego is ootin' a boot, right? Man, that came out of nowhere. It's almost like it had been on my mind for a while. Anyway, so try it. Find every available resource. Let the fear just exhaust itself and then go to work. Start getting data. Do you know that I rarely have the same fear twice? Rarely. Because the next time my mind starts going, oh my God, we're going to lose our job. I'm just like, dude, I have a plan for that. Camp counselor says, hey man, totally natural to be afraid of that. To be afraid to find yourself living on the street. Yeah, that's a valid concern. But we have a plan, and we'll do whatever we can to resolve the problem so it never gets to that point. And then I'm like, oh, that's right, camp counselor is on duty. You know, I can go back to arts and crafts and making my macaroni necklace in the rec room, right? Well, thank you for joining me. Hopefully this is helpful to someone. And I will see you at another time.